Hello, this is the Internet Safety Module for EDL 850. I'm Jeremy Plymell. For the overview, we're going to look at Children's Internet Protection Act, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule, E-Rate, School Policy Review. In the Children's Internet Protection Act, these are the things that I found. So it's required that you have an Internet safety policy, and this policy is going to govern things like inappropriate information, or more specifically like pornography and things like that. It talks about communication, hacking, and personal information. The requirement also is that there is technology protection measures, which include blocking and filtering mainly of the content that we previously discussed, but in the prior assignment we talked about companies that design the blocking and filtering software. And then there are two additional requirements that we'll discuss later. For the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule, the primary goal is to control and safeguard minors' personal information, and then this applies specifically to website operators, including mobile apps. The main concept is, they have to provide a clear policy of what their rules are. And then the biggest takeaways from this, there's a lot of different working parts of this one, but they kind of fall under the main idea is the parental control. So the parents have control via consent, so they have to have consent to their child being on there. They have the capability to review what their children are doing on those websites, and then they have the capability to remove or delete content that their children have posted. Another big aspect is that the websites will not share the minor's information with third parties, so they're not going to sell their information. Okay, so E-Rate and SIPA kind of fall into the same. They're kind of like holding hands. So what E-Rate is that's a way for libraries and schools specifically to receive government funding to help get internet access, so that areas that may not be able to provide their own internet can receive funding to help them do that. The discount level is proportional to the local poverty level. I think the range is between 20% and 90% paid for of the local broadband cost. And the reason why I said that SIPA and E-Rate go hand in hand is because if you receive those E-Rate funds, you have to follow all of the SIPA rules. So the next discussion would be the violation of the rules. Well, since SIPA and E-Rate go hand in hand, we'll discuss those two together. So if you violate SIPA, any of the terms that we discussed in that one, or if you don't follow through with all the requirements of E-Rate, of which it's mainly follow the SIPA rules, but there's also a whole bunch of requirements of the school has to document this, or library has to document this or that, then the main punishment would be a removal of funds, so you'll no longer receive the funds. But in addition to that you'll also be required, or potentially required, to repay funds that you received for the time that you were in violation of those rules. For the COPA, generally what you'll see is there'll be an investigation that's either led by the FTC or possibly even legislators, so like the House or the Senate will investigate a website, or specifically, let's just use an example like Facebook. They'll investigate Facebook or Snapchat or something and see if they're violating COPA. And if they're found in violation, then they will be held accountable in terms of fines. So for the school board policies, since I don't currently work at a school board, I chose to look at USD 108. That's where my wife teaches at their policy. So the two additional requirements for SIPA were talking about monitoring online activities. So in the USD 108 handbook, it discusses filtering, blocking, and I didn't add it in there, but it does specifically call out monitoring online activities. And then there's the same section it discusses they are SIPA compliant. And then the second requirement also was that they educate online behaviors and interactions. So within that handbook, there was a lot of pages discussing cyberbullying and terms in use. So there were probably 3 or 4 pages in one section and 2 or 3 pages in another section that talk about exactly what we're discussing today, in terms of like a huge section on cyberbullying and what is cyberbullying and what the school will do about it and the policies concerning it. And then they even link to like legal websites about cyberbullying. They also talk about the social media interactions and what they should and shouldn't do, but basically their blanket statement is we're blocking those websites such as Facebook at the school unless there's an educational reason for those sites to be unblocked. So for the critique of their policy, like I said, I don't have any direct knowledge of USD 108. However, I used their documents that were available online, and I talked with my wife. So the things I liked is they had all the information there in their student handbook and their code of conduct rules. In addition, my wife said that she doesn't do the training, but the classroom teachers will do training on specifically cyberbullying and different aspects of internet safety. So I know that does happen. Thank you very much, and beware what you share.